I looked at what happened in Israel and said, would this have happened if they didn't feel a sense of U.S. weakness? Is that a fair assessment, or is Hamas so barbaric and savage that it really they don't worry about retaliation, or they don't care about the United States? So was this inevitable, or was it they sensed weakness and took advantage of it?
Sean, I think you hit the most important point in all of this. I'm going to take one step back. It's not just Hamas. Obviously, we know Iran's regime is pulling the puppet strings. Iran's regime has played the Biden administration like a fiddle from day one they came into office. They said the Biden administration wanted to reverse Donald Trump's policies on Iran. And I'm going to take one step back from that and say President Obama was the first to flip our foreign policy, meaning I'm going to just do a foreign policy 101 here.
Okay.
If you look at the presidential timeline of all presidents and you take President Obama and President Biden out of that timeline, you will never know whether that president was Democrat or Republican when it comes to two things and that are relate to this equation, and that is Israel and terrorism. We never wavered in our relationship with Israel. We never wavered on having a strong stance on terrorism, national security, protecting our borders, protecting our assets, protecting our allies. But comes along President Obama from day one, apologizing to our enemies, from day one, wanting to make nice with Iran's regime at the expense of turning our backs to Saudi Arabia, Israel, and any other moderate forces in the region. He literally took our policies with the region and flipped it on its head. Comes along Donald Trump, and from day one, he says, I'm going to rip up that Iran nuclear deal because it's a useless piece of paper.
No,
right?
I was there. It was fascinating to watch him. I mean, I remember when we pulled out of this and everybody freaked out and Trump was like, it's the wrong, we're not sticking in this thing. But so I guess let's get back to the question I asked.
Yes.
Was this attack inevitable? Or what if Trump had won re-election or Biden hadn't shown appeasement to Iran, would this have happened, or does Hamas
I don't believe that. I don't, just to give you a yes or no, I do not believe that would have happened. I think when you're whining and dining an enemy and telling them that regardless of what you do, kill protesters on the streets, beat a woman for not wearing her hijab properly to death, we'll look the other way. We're not even going to talk about regime change when there are hundreds of thousands of people on the streets of Iran calling for regime change. For a whole year, the Biden administration looked the other way. Why? Because they wanted to strike a deal. They never would have punished the Houthis in Yemen or Hezbollah in Lebanon or Hamas in Gaza because they wanted to appease the regime. So the regime thinks to itself, we have up until Biden is in office to do something, and this is the perfect time to do it.